Welcome to my YouTube channel CraftOfDeath. Today I want to show you my newest project for the board game Kingdom Death Monster. In addition, I want to go deeper into the different steps you have to take for making your own custom bases. Please keep in mind that this won't be a step-by-step guide to this exact base. I just want to give you a short overview of what you have to do if you want to make your own custom bases. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the ride with all its ups and downs. Now, before we start anything else, we should give ourselves some time to think about what the base for this miniature should look like. It should incorporate some of the game elements that come with the monster, and it should be visually compliant to the game. The first thing that came to my mind was a giant stone hand for the monster to stand on. After some 3D modeling and printing of the base, I ultimately decided against the idea, because I wanted to incorporate a giant stone face and a visual representation of the closed and opened eyes effect that is part of the monster's mechanic within the game. Here you can see my first attempt, but sadly it didn't work out that well, because I wanted to incorporate actual eyelids that could be opened and closed. Sadly, they were a bit too thin and everything was just too small to be realized. So I went back to the drawing board and came up with this new design. You can see that this design is already finished, and I'm not showing the process of sculpting the base piece by piece. You have to keep in mind that sculpting this base takes a long time. I'm talking about days and days, weeks. So I hope you understand why I can't show the whole process in the context of this video. But there are some things I want to talk about. First thing, you should keep in mind that the whole base or the whole sculpt should be one massive object. It won't be enough to sculpt individual hands and just put them on the object. You really have to make sure that everything is connected and the whole structure has a solid foundation. You can see that I have a low poly sculpt of the hand, the actual figure, but this is just needed for size comparisons, so it won't be needed for the print itself. There's one additional object that's separate to the base and that I want to show you. It is of course the lenses that will be put into the different eyes in their matching 3 colors. And there's blue, green and red. These will be printed separately, or better, they will be replaced by magnets or metal plates in a later stage, because this way they can be attached and while moving the base they won't fall off or anything. But anyway, I just put it up here so you can see what is the concept of the design. If you're not familiar to the monster, the hand within the board game, this won't tell you much and you will ask yourself, why do I need this? But if you have played against the hand, you will realize that there are certain things that you have to keep track of, and yeah, this is the way I imagined it. So you can just keep track of which lenses are open and which ones are closed. Now that I'm finished modeling the base, I have to go into my 3D print hub or my slicer software and check my mesh for problems and place it so it can be printed. So for this model I decided to print it flat on the surface of the printer. This has some disadvantages. Firstly, it means that print will take a lot longer, but the advantage of this kind of printing is that I will have a very flat surface at the bottom of the base, and it will be there will be very little supports needed for printing it. So I will quickly check if there are some integrity problems with the mesh. You can see I used this button of the slicer software to fix two holes that have been found by the software. But yeah, this shouldn't be a problem. The software works really nice. And next up, I will talk about some supports. So you can see that there are certain areas of the base where there's some kind of overhang. And especially at those places, you will definitely have to add supports, so the integrity of the structure won't be compromised during the print. There will always be the question, where do I have to put supports, or how many do I have to add? Yeah, it's kind of a tricky thing, but this software is really good, and I will put a link down in the description, and it will show you where you have to put supports. It also has this feature where you can select your printer and the resin you are using, so it will automatically select the perfect curing time for you. And for me, this has worked very well over the past years, and I'm really happy about it. One last, let's call it a tip for making the supports. You also have the possibility to make supports that are attached to the base itself. Within the software, you achieve this by clicking on the manual support, then on the base, hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and press on the second point where you want the support to end. I will show this very quick. And yeah, it just is a very nice way to add these little supports in between and not have like these huge overhanging poles of the supports that go right down to the building plate. So I would recommend doing that, and you will just save yourself a lot of time cleaning up the base after printing. And also, there are certain places where you actually can't reach with these normal supports that are going down to the build plate. So this is something I didn't know in my earlier printing days, and I find it to be quite handy. Now that I'm finished with preparing the model, I will slice it and I will send it out to my 3D printer. Printing this model was one of the worst experiences I've had in the last years. And it wasn't bad because the model was badly sculpted or the supports were bad, but because my printer decided to fail multiple times. Here you can see one of my failed prints, and yeah, it's quite annoying because making a print like this takes multiple hours. In this case it's about 6 hours with my printer, and there was just nothing I could do except for taking the printer apart multiple times. It failed on so many stages. My Z-axis stopped moving multiple times, and I also had a hole in my resin tray, which was very unfortunate. After all this hassle and these multiple failed prints, I finally had the model printed out and I also was quite happy with it. So in difference to the other models before, I decided to prime and paint it. I used a villager primer and I painted it with my airbrush. I just found this to be the perfect way. Of course, only if you have access to an airbrush. But yeah, just don't forget to shake your primer before using it and apply a thin, really thin layer of the primer. And if you don't have an airbrush, you can do this of course with a spray can. Next up, I used some different colors. You can see them here, from the left the darkest one, to the right the brightest color, and sprayed the model with multiple layers, starting with the darkest color and going to the brightest one. Again, I did this with my airbrush, and yeah, of course this isn't a tutorial on how you paint your model. If you want something like that, I could make a future video about it. But to be honest, there's nothing much to it. You just start with the darkest color and progressively go lighter and lighter. And at the end, you will take some shadings like Nuln Oil and Aqueous Earthshade in this case, and you will apply the shading to the model. It will go into the darkest excesses or the deepest excesses of the model, and it will just make it appear darker. Yeah. After that, I used some dry brushing. Just take a old brush, take some bright color, and the key of dry brushing is to put very, very small amounts of colors onto your brush and then just apply it very, very softly on the model. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you could take something from it, maybe to make your own custom bases and dive into this world that I really, really love, and I hope to make a lot of more content for it. Right now I won't be able to make additional bases or sculpts because my 3D printer is just completely wasted. But this shouldn't be a problem because I've planned on doing some different videos anyway. Next up, I will talk about my settlement book and my settlement location and gear folders. Some of you have asked about them already, so I will be happy to tell you about them. And yeah, this will be my next videos, and I hope I will find some solution for my printer by the time I finish those ones. Have a nice day, and thank you so much for watching the video. Until next time, bye bye.